All right, guys, what's up, my ninjas? I have a special guest with me, Chris Lopez. Now, a little background on Chris. Me and him actually did a podcast probably about 5, 6 years ago, way back. Yeah. And he was one of my guests. He was doing a ton of kettlebell work at that time and kettlebell programming. And now he's got this awesome program, which I just checked out, Alpha Dad, for all those dads out there that want to be alpha. But I'll let him explain a little bit more. Big thing on him, he's down in Costa Rica, and he runs his whole business from remotely from Costa Rica, all around the world, and impacts tons and tons of people. Chris, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be back. It's kind of like a full circle moment for us. 5 years. It's a long time.
5 years, and we get to talk about
5 years.
Oh, that's yeah, for sure. So talk about yourself. A little bit of background on yourself and your business.
Okay, I run a business called Alpha Dad Media Incorporated, and so I have two primary properties under that. I've got kettlebellworkouts.com still, and I have alphadadproject.com, and those are my two primary businesses. And then within the Alpha Dad Media umbrella, I also do some business coaching. I still do some personal coaching for some higher end clients, both on the physical side, like as in the body transformation side of things and the physical training side of things. And I also teach for a couple of certification organizations as well. So I have my hand in a little bit of everything, which is like what I like to do because it helps me diversify my income streams and work on a few things at the same time. I'm really big into the fitness stuff, mainly because I want to still keep my pulse onto everything. That's how the main project, Alpha Dad Project, was built off of. It was kind of like helping guys about my age. So I'm like 43 now. You and I were talking about my background story. My wife and I, we have 5 kids. We're here in Costa Rica. And a lot of what I was doing on the kettlebell side was just helping guys get in shape who didn't have a lot of time to train. So I would teach them how to do that with the kettlebell stuff. And what I found was that a lot of them were like me, whereas they had kids, they had a job, they had to pay the bills, they didn't have a lot of time to train. And they started asking me questions about fatherhood and about relationships and stuff like that. And so that's how the Alpha Dad Project was created. It was more or less a holistic approach to not only fatherhood, but being a man and being able to balance life and business and entrepreneurship. Well, not really entrepreneurship, because not a lot of them are entrepreneurs, but just being able to balance life in general and understanding that health is a major part of that, because you can't really be much of anything unless you really take care of yourself. So that's kind of how that started.
Man, that really resonates with me, because just listening to you talk about like Alpha Dad, and like you obviously, me and you connected before I even had kids, and the transition into fatherhood was like something like I completely gave up on myself. Like I run a fitness business, and I was barely working out because I was barely getting any sleep, and it became a slippery slope around the time my first kid came. And if I didn't have a fitness business where people actually looked up to me in fitness, I probably wouldn't have got myself back into shape.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, if you look on the Alpha Dad Project, there's a couple of transformation pictures where I didn't even realize it at the time, but I think we had just had our 5th baby. And oh my God, I looked horrible. Like I was just like, I cannot, people are actually paying me to train them and I look like this. So they were paying me to train them and I look like, it was not good. I wasn't like fat or anything. I wasn't obese, but I definitely did not look like I belonged in the fitness industry. And much, I mean, it's probably more so in the bigger cities like Toronto, New York, and LA and that stuff. But you really do have to look the part if you're going to be in the fitness industry. And that was kind of the birth of Alpha Dad, and me kind of changing things in the way I approached it, realizing that I really had to take care of myself, and then inspiring and motivating other guys to be able to do that as well.
So, I mean, let's take it back to the beginning, because maybe some of the viewers don't know about your background. How did you get started in the fitness industry?
Okay. So my wife and I had our first daughter very young. I was 21, she was 19. And at the time I was in university. I was at the University of Guelph in Canada, and I was doing a kinesiology degree. Back then it was called human kinetics. And I had to quit school because we were having a baby and I wanted to be back in Toronto and they weren't going to move back with me. We made the decision that Toronto would be the best place for us because my wife is at school at York University. So I applied to get transferred or whatever there, but I needed a job. And so a really good friend of mine, who he was actually the best man at my wedding, got me an interview at a mutual fund company in the IT department because he was in IT. He was Asian too. So there you go. There's the first stereotype, Asian, IT. I mean, he got me in. So anyway, he's like one of my closest friends, still is. I mean, Jason's, he's an amazing guy and everything. Anyway, so this is actually a really funny story. So I got the interview in the IT department. It was for the help desk. And the help desk is where you help people solve the problems with their computers. Mind you, I knew nothing about computers, like at all, nothing. And so I went into the interview thinking that Microsoft Office was an operating system. And that was my whole belief of it. It was just like, what, you press power, you turn it on, and then it works. And so when I went into this interview, I told them straight up, I said, listen, I have absolutely no idea about computers and I have no idea how to work them or what to do or anything. But I'm really good at talking to people. I'm really good with connecting with people and I'm willing to learn. So would you consider hiring me? And they hired me on the spot. Maybe they appreciated my honesty.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but
maybe they're like Asian guy, he could pick it up.
Yeah, probably, right? So so I get this job at the IT company. Mind you, I have a kinesiology background, and then I played volleyball in university for a couple of years as well. And so I have an athletic background. And so staying in shape for me was really, really, really important. And I was lucky enough that this mutual fund company that I was working for had an amazing corporate gym. And so I would make it so that I would get up. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning every day, taking the bus from Unionville, where my wife and I were living at the time, at her parents' house, and hopping on the local transit to go to the subway station, going down, getting to work by 6 a.m. so I could work out, and then starting my shift at I think it was 8:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever. So I was doing that every day for the entire time that I was working there. And every day that I was there at 6 a.m., there was another guy that was there who was at 6 a.m. there at 6 a.m. as well. I knew what I was doing in the gym. He really didn't know what he was doing in the gym. And we kept on going, I would say, hey, Oliver, how's it going? We kind of became not really friends, but we knew each other. We knew each other.
Training partners kind of thing.
Yeah, well, no, not even.
Not even training partners.
He would do his own thing. I would do my own thing, and then he would just watch me kind of do it. And then one day he asked me, "Hey, would you mind just showing me some stuff? And I'm happy to pay you if you want." And I'd be like, "No, I'm here anyway. Why don't I just show you some stuff?" And so I started showing him some stuff, and then he eventually ended up becoming my training partner, and then I ended up training him. But here's how ignorant I was. What I didn't know was that Oliver was the chief operating officer of the mutual fund company. And so he was trying to develop good habits of exercise by getting there every day. And he was super disciplined. And he saw the discipline in me. And so he asked me if he could start paying me to be his trainer. And so I was like, fuck yeah, of course, you're the COO. I'm going to take your money. Yeah. And then before you know it, he was introducing me to some of his friends who are also higher up executives within the mutual fund company. And so I was training them in the mornings and at lunchtime and after work in the off hours while I was working at their mutual fund company in the IT department. And it got to the point where I was making more money training Oliver and his buddies than I was at my actual job. So then one day, Oliver came to me. He asked me to come up to his office. So I went up to the executive offices and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you working in the IT department? And by that time in IT, I worked my way up to middle management. So I was doing okay. But clearly my passion was with fitness. Yeah. And so I had a nice talk with this guy and he was like, I'll support you 150% if you want to resign and start your own business. And that's kind of how it started. And so he eventually ended up introducing me to more of his friends. And then I hooked up with a higher end personal training company in Toronto and got to know a few more executives in the city and started training a lot of them. And then before you know it, I was doing quite well. It was nice. Good. Yeah. But that's how I started in the fitness industry.
So I mean, it sounds like you had some background because you did kinesiology and all that stuff like that. Did you have to did you end up getting more calls and certs or something? It seems like this thing just fell on your lap and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to be a trainer.
I ended up getting a certification when I started thinking that it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was really important to me to be able to have that. So yeah, but I think from an insurance standpoint, you need a certification for sure. I don't think you need a ton of letters behind your name. I don't think you need a piece of paper to tell you exactly like that you know what you're doing. I mean, I think it's necessary. I think the kinesiology background helped because it really gave me a foundation for physiology and anatomy and for me to understand how the body works. And then I could directly apply that. So it's a great foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody needs, like, if you ever want to get into the fitness industry, I think you really should be well-versed in physiology and anatomy and know a lot of the bodily operations. But I don't think anything will give you as good education as actually getting down in the trenches and making mistakes.
Yeah. And that's where I kind of get at, like, it sounds like you had some early wins and successes like in the industry because you actually got some clients and you actually started working with people. Whereas some people just get certs, continuous education, never take that jump towards actually like working with people one-on-one. Because you and me both know it's not what you know, it's how you talk to people. Like you just said, You said it earlier, you were like, you had good communication skills to start off with.
Yeah, I was lucky in that sense. And I have no idea where that came from. I mean, I guess it's just from talking to people, but I'm very comfortable around people. I'm very comfortable talking to people. I'm very comfortable verbalizing my feelings or my thoughts and really trying to get my point across. So I was good with that. And before I knew it, like being in the personal training industry for so long, I came to realize that like more than half of it is your ability to talk to people and almost become a counselor or a confidant for some people. So you really do need to know, like you need to know your stuff from a fitness standpoint, but that will only take you so far unless you're actually working with like professional athletes or anything, right? Like then you really need to up your game and really, it helps to really get into investing in your knowledge from that sense. But if you're working with weekend warriors or mom and pop or like housewives or these executives, you know, they don't care about what you know about plyometric training or you know, the stress shortening cycle or any of that. Like they don't care about that stuff. They just want to get in shape. And so your job as a fitness professional is just to be able to connect with them and to tell them what they want to hear, but give them what they need.
Right.
So I mean, that's really all it is. Like you just have to make sure that they have a good experience.
You just sell them what they want, but give them what they need in the back end from communicating. So you started training, obviously working one-on-one with a lot of clients, but then you did this pivot. Was this a slow pivot online, or was it a quick thing that you just started to do your online businesses?
So, you know, it's funny. So I was working for this higher end personal training company in Toronto, and we had a lot of the, you know, top executives there. And we had like our roster of trainers was like the who's who of personal training back in the day. And there was one gentleman who I became very, very good friends with, who came into the company at the same time that I did. His name was Craig Ballantyne. Craig, if you're not familiar with Craig, he's big into productivity and stuff like that now. He runs a company called Early to Rise, and you know, he's big in social media and stuff like that. But he was my very first business mentor. And back in the day, I was doing a lot of kettlebell stuff because I had just started reading about Pavel Tsatsouline, who's the godfather of the modern kettlebell movement. And I was doing a lot of kettlebell stuff. And Craig came up to me one time after we had our third kid. And he was like, I see what you're doing with the kettlebell stuff. It's really interesting stuff. I don't think anybody's doing it. Would you be interested in having a bigger audience with that? Because what I'm doing is really interesting right now. I have an online newsletter, and I have, you know, whatever, 10,000 people subscribe to this newsletter. I'm able to sell them programs and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to be able to do that. Like, how do you do that? And so Craig took me under his wing and showed me the ropes of online marketing and how to become a quote unquote online trainer before that even was a thing. Mm-hmm. And he and I partnered up in kettlebellworkouts.com back in 2008 is when we started that.
Old school.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time. I was like, 2020. It was like 12
Yeah.
years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we started with that and grew a list, and then eventually got to a position where I could buy Craig out. And that's kind of how I got into the online thing. He and I are still incredible friends. We still speak to each other like every week. We're always texting each other and stuff like that. So he's been an amazing mentor of mine. Probably one of my best mentors.
So Chris, like, yeah, I gotta ask this question about like you expanding your audience. I know like when we work with clients one-on-one, we're very familiar with the people, but yet, the thought of going out and kind of broadcasting what you do, did you ever get like that feeling of like some type of like imposter syndrome, or like, who the hell am I going around the world? And this is not just Toronto now as an online business. You're going worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's a funny story. So when I first started the kettlebell site with Craig, it was huge imposter syndrome. And part of it was because nobody knew who I was. But at that time, I didn't have a kettlebell certification. I didn't have like an RKC certification or whatever. And so when Craig and I launched our first program, I got ripped by the quote unquote kettlebell community as like this big imposter, and who is this guy? And he doesn't know what he's doing. We've never heard of it. It's a small community, but still, when you're trying to like gain respect from certain types of people or certain people in the industry, I mean, that was exactly what happened. And so when we launched the kettlebell site, that was happening. And so for me, what it was I did two things. Number one, I signed up for kettlebell certification, and I passed it with flying colors, to the point where they asked me to become one of their instructors, like that I should go on the instructor route. And then number two, the main thing for me was like, can I cuss?
Yeah, sure.
All right. The main thing for me was like, who the fuck am I doing this for? I have a wife and 5 kids at home. Like, I can't give a shit about Joe Schmo Kettlebell and what he thinks of me. No offense, I know your name is Joe, but
Okay.
like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't.
Yeah.
I have to insulate myself. Like, I can't care about what other people are thinking of me if I'm trying to feed my family.
Right.
Like, and for me at the time, it wasn't about, getting rich and scaling up and, taking pictures in front of a Lamborghini and having this big ass house and everything. No, man, it was about putting food on the table. It was about doing what was necessary for the people that were most important to me. And so every time I got into the whole imposter syndrome and to the point where it was, I was starting to doubt myself, I really had to go back to grassroots and remind myself who I was doing it for and why I was doing it. The other thing is like 99.999% of the world is not a kettlebell expert. And so
right.
I'm not, when I created that site and the programs for that, I was there to educate people on how to do things properly. I wasn't there to educate or to continually educate the people that already thought that they knew what they were doing. Right. And so that was it. So for me, it was just like go back to grassroots, find out why you're really doing this and what the purpose of it is. And that was it for me. And then that set me straight every time.
Dude, what's a more powerful reason than to feed your family, right? Put food on the table.
Right. Like that was it. I mean, that was exactly it. And that was all that really mattered to me. Even as we're talking in this pandemic, I mean, for the longest time, I've always said my happiest times are only when the 7 of us, because we have 5 kids. So there's me, my wife, and our 5 kids, when the 7 of us are together. And especially in this time, like we flew my daughter down, my oldest daughter, we flew her from Toronto down here 2 hours before the border closed in Costa Rica, because we figured if shit hits the fan, is it better for her to be by herself and then for us to be here? No, it's probably better for the 7 of us to be together. So, and that's been my mantra, like no matter what. And so everything that I do is always for the 7 of us.
That's amazing, man. Like, yeah, I think about like, you launched out this program. Like you said, 99% of the world doesn't know anything about kettlebells. You're actually doing the kettlebell community a service by putting more content out there for them, because the experts would then be able to have a bigger audience to pull from. Exactly.
I mean, that's why, like, you see a lot of kettlebell experts bash CrossFit. And it's like CrossFit has done more for the kettlebell community than the kettlebell community has themselves.
Yeah.
Like
for the fitness industry, industry as a whole.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I may not agree with the way CrossFit CrossFit does their programming or anything like that. I called it CrossFit. I can't believe I just did that. That was anyway. But like, I may not agree with some of the things that they do, but they've done amazing things for the fitness community, for the kettlebell community. The way they build community in general within their own system is amazing. There's a lot of lessons to be taken from that. And so whenever people bring, I guess it goes back to that old saying where any press is good press.
Yeah,
so
it's true. It's true. So you started in the online kind of fitness space really early on. Like Craig goes way, he's like the godfather of like fitness back then.
Yep.
But the representation. I mean, I'm gonna bring it back to like race, right? You're going across the world. Mostly, actually, I don't know where the majority of your clients were. Like, was it North America? Was it more Europe or?
It was a good split. There was a lot. It was primarily North America, but then there was a good amount in Australia and in Europe as well.
Okay. So did you ever feel like that content would coming from you, would it be like appreciate? Has it ever crossed your mind? Would your content be like absorbed and consumed by?
To be honest, Joe, like I never thought of it that way. When I was growing up, I mean, we grew up in a multicultural community, and so I never thought that I was different. And when I was working in the mutual fund company, where they're primarily it was like in the higher executive ranks in sales and in marketing and stuff like that, they were primarily, Caucasian. It was very Eurocentric, but I never saw myself as being different. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times I would get comments where it was like, well, where's your accent? Or, when I talk to people, it's like, where's your accent? Or you're so well-spoken. And it's like, what do you think I'm going to be talking like? Like, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? You think I'm going to talk like that in a sales environment? Like, so it was one of those things where like and to be quite honest with you, like I really never have seen myself as being less or being more than anybody else. And I just really did my thing.
Yeah.
And it's only been recently, it's only really been when it's been blatantly brought to my attention that I've noticed that, oh, fuck, I am different. Like I look different. My skin's a little darker than yours. My hair's a little darker. My eyes are darker. But I think one of the things for me was being ignorant to that worked to my advantage, because it was one of those things where it was just like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what you think. Yeah. I'm just going to do it. So,
well, you had two things. You had a strong why. I mean, your family. Plus, I think your ability to convey your emotions and how you feel, it does a ton.
I think so too. Yeah. I think people expect you, especially with a stereotype, with like the whole submissive Asian stereotype. Yeah. When I, especially like if I'm in the gym or if I'm talking about a topic that I'm really passionate or that I really know about, I'm very confident when I speak. Yes. And so I think that gives people a different notion or a different mentality, or they see you differently in that sense. Yeah. And so I've always come out of the gate, and I don't know if it's like almost me like overcompensating by showing that I am confident, but it's always worked to my advantage. I've never been, racially called out that I can remember. Well, a couple of times I have, but it's never really it's never really affected me. I think a lot of it is because of the why that you mentioned.
For sure. Like strong why, and you're able to convey yourself. So if somebody came up to you, you could actually explain your way out of that system, that situation, and deal with the situation if it arose. So
yeah,
I wanted to go into the business side of things now. Like you have this business. How long has it been running for? Would you say the kettlebell?
The kettlebell business now is about 12 years old, and we've just gone through a big facelift, and I'm restructuring my business, and that's, well, not even that side of the business, but the business in general. But yeah, it's been around for a little while.
So 12 years, man, you must have gone through tons of trials and tribulations. We don't have time to go through all of them, but what would you say would be like the biggest like fail forward that ever happened to you, and that had to like, you had to switch up the business completely? You thought it might have been failure, but then you flipped it over. You did something to keep it going.
For me, it was trying to go too big, too fast. The thing that I find the thing that I had trouble with, and I find a lot of entrepreneurs right now have trouble with, is that they see it only as like an immediate thing. Whereas if you've read Simon Sinek's book, it's called The Infinite Game. Business is all about an infinite game. Like it's about doing things for the long term. It's about servicing, over delivering on the service that you're providing for people and doing it over the long range. Like I didn't build the kettlebell business for me to sell it in like 5 years or do any of that stuff. I built it as a service to people. And so initially when I started and we started to see the money come in a little bit and it was doing quite well, I would, hire, like I tried to hire trainers, and I was hiring designers, and I was hiring customer service people. And it was taking me away from all of the things that I loved to do and all of the things that made the business me and what made the business successful to begin with. And so when I started to notice that, I had to scale it back and just go back to like first principles and understand exactly what it was that I was doing and who it was that I was doing it for. One of the biggest, I guess, books that has really affected me in the past couple of years is this book by this guy, Paul Jarvis, called Company of One. And it talks about just scaling down and doing things small, but still being profitable and not necessarily having all of this overhead and all of this bling and all, and having all these fancy tools and everything like that. It's just about servicing your customers and over delivering on that, and understanding that your customers are the lifeblood of your business. And so doing everything you can to get a customer and keep a customer and make them a customer for life, and really focusing on that. And so when I read that book, probably even before that, I have a business coach that I work with right now who's really helped me with that. And his whole business is based on having these tiny little businesses. And I've basically changed my model to that sense, where it's like, I'm fine if it's me and my assistant, and we hire up for little things with graphics and stuff like that. But as long as I can keep things manageable, and I don't need to be making, 7-8 figures a year or doing any of that. If I can live in Costa Rica, have a condo in Toronto, be able to go home to see my parents and my family or our daughter, 2 or 3 times a year, be able to travel. We have this trip that we have a family trip that we go to California for Thanksgiving we've been doing that for the past 4 years. Like if we can do that and have our house in Costa Rica, and I can go to the beach every morning and get some vitamin D, and I can run a beach volleyball program here in Costa Rica and contribute to the community and stuff like that. Yeah. That's all I need. I don't need the big ego with the Lamborghini and, talking about, my massive house and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't matter. Like for me, it's just like having enough so that I can spend time with my family and still do the things that I love and put a little bit in the bank and save up for a rainy day.
Dude, this whole theme of this whole episode was all about having a why. Like, and I think you knowing what fulfilled looks like at the end of the day with your life, and striving for that is all that really matters. Like,
well, it took a while though. I mean, because I came up into the industry with a lot of some of the big names. Like I mentioned Craig, but like guys like Vince Del Monte, who is he and I were in the same mastermind. Craig was our coach around the same time, and a couple of other really, really big guys. And those guys are like doing amazing now. They're stratospheric, which is great. And for a few years, and I have to thank my wife for this, because she always stuck by my side with this. But I used to compare myself to them about how well they were doing, and why don't we have this big ass house? And it took a while for me to really just understand what was important, and for my wife to help me bring me back. And now we've got this amazing life, and it's great. And so it took a while for me to stop comparing myself to other people, but once I started doing that, it was good.
Awesome. It was super, super deliberate. Sounds like the way you live your life right now. And it must have been, it took a while for you to get there. Just for the sake of time, I want to get deep into that, but I also wanted to talk about also like aha moments that you've had in your business. I know you would have gone back, you wouldn't have scaled as quickly as you would have. Was there a point or at all? It could be the same moment, but like, would you say that would be like the aha moments? Like if I was to start all over again, that's what I would have done? Or was there another breakthrough moment, like in terms of business principles, that would have been like, that's a light bulb moment that you've had throughout your entire career?
I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is that I wouldn't have scaled at all. I don't think I would have kept it lean and then scaled when it was necessary, understanding the infinite game. The second thing, and somebody had asked me this question before, or could have been in a book that I read, but I would have taken care of my customers better initially, because when I was in business or when I first started out, you only care about that front end sale. You only care about getting the money in and watching the bank account grow and everything. But you don't realize that the people that are giving you this money, the people that are paying for your program, they're people. And so if you just take care of those people, like imagine what your business would be like if you never lost a customer. If you had the same customers, the same amount of customers, and it kept on accumulating from the first time you made that first sale. And like, I've taken care of my customers, but I know for a fact, not as well as I could have, because I was too caught up in that initial sale and making that money. But what you don't realize is that, number one, acquiring a customer is one of the hardest things in business. And number two, if you just take care of that customer, they could potentially be a customer for life. Like, I'm lucky in that I've taken care of quite a few customers, not as many as I would have liked, but I've got people on my list and on my customer list that are still paying for my products from like 10 years ago. Wow. But imagine if I had, like whatever, 90% of the customers, or 50% of the customers that I had before, like how much better would the business be doing, or how much money would the business be making if you're able to take care of those customers? So if you're just starting business, or if you're not even if you're starting business, but if you're in your business for yourself right now, take care of your customers. And because they are not an asset, like they're people, but like they will take care of you provided that you over deliver on the service you provide them. So just take care of them, because they will become a customer for life, for sure, if you take care of them.
Dude, I love that, because the overarching like things that are going on in the marketing world right now is the sexy front end offer. Hey, let me fill up your funnel, but they don't talk about like how much it costs to lose a lifetime value, because that's not sexy. Because that's the stuff that that's the boring stuff that you have to do day in and day out to service your customer, which most people, they don't like the monotony of that. They just want to kind of fill up the funnel with more and more sales. And I've been frigging guilty of it for years. So.
Yeah, no, it's like social media. It's that dopamine rush, right? Yeah, like I got a new customer, and like you're all hype and everything. But yeah, you got to do what you have to do to keep that customer and keep servicing them, because they will continually buy from you if you take care of them. And it's so much easier to sell to a customer that you already have than it is to find a new customer to sell to.
Dude, yeah. Spitting wisdom there, spitting fire. Just for the sake of time, I got this last question. I always like to ask this. I believe everybody's life is like a kung fu or action movie montage, right? Or any story with a hero arc. All right. What movie or a kung fu movie or action movie, whatever hero arc movie would you say is like your life, or what would you say is your favorite and why?
My favorite. Okay, I've got two. One is a kung fu movie, and then one is like a classic that I basically grew up with. So the classic that I grew up with, that all of my kids have watched, and that basically got me started with personal training and got me obsessed with training, Rocky IV. The training montage in Rocky IV is just like, that is like, if you want a movie that is responsible for me being where I am today, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky IV, like that was the one. Like that training montage where it was completely minimalist. The guy has rocks in a net and he's doing tricep extensions. He's lifting, his trainer and his family or whatever in like a cart and shoulder pressing them overhead. He's doing sit-ups off a balcony, like in a barn, like minimalist, bare bones. And that's winter too. In winter, dragging a sled in the snow. Like that is like my complete training philosophy as it stands, like, and it has been for like the longest time. I've never been into the big fancy stuff. I've always believed that the basics are what will get you where you need to go. So Rocky IV for sure. And then the second one, if you want to call it a kung fu movie, and I basically watched this movie every day in the summer in 1988, I think it was, is Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, yeah.
I absolutely love Bloodsport and the Kumite and all that stuff, and Dim Mak and all that crazy shit. Like,
but the one where he like with the sweat and he's like, and he just like does that like.
No, I don't know.
Was it the way he wipes off his sweat from his eyebrow and he just did that like flick? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't.
I don't think it was Bloodsport. You gotta watch it. It's a Van Damme movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Badass. Awesome.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to reach out to you, Chris, what's the best way to get a hold of you or learn more about you?
You can go to any one of my websites, actually, subscribe for my newsletter, or I have contact forms on there. One of the things that and this is part of what I was talking about in terms of, keeping on the lifeblood of the business, knowing the people. So any email that I get, I respond to personally now. And I know all the business gurus are like, oh, you can't do that. You got to hire an assistant. You got to make it difficult. You have to have a gatekeeper there. No, I think that's bullshit. I think if people are emailing me, and I get emails from people that are like they'll give me their life story. Like, if you email me, I will get back to you personally. That is my number one promise and my guarantee. I will get back to you personally. My assistant handles like any refunds or anything like that. But if you send me a personal email, I will reply to you, because when you email me, you're looking to talk to me. And so if you're taking that time, then I can take that time. And so go to any one of my websites. So that would be kettlebellworkouts.com, alphadadproject.com, or you can go to my personal site, chrislopez.io, and just go to the contact form there. You can sign up for my newsletter. But if you go to the contact form, that'll drop me an email and I'll get back to you. That's the best place to go.
Awesome, Chris. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your secrets on health, wealth, and living a kick-ass life. You are a true ninja, because what you talked about, you've been hustling in silence, but you kill with success. That's my new tagline.
That's the way I like it, man. No, but that's good. I really like that. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Awesome, Chris. All right, see you later, man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Okay, man. Take care.